What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers have a letdown to end their six-game road trip, losing to the Dallas Mavericks 117-112 behind a barrage of Spencer Dinwiddie threes late there in the fourth quarter. We will have you covered on the breakdown of this game, the breakdown of this road trip. It's still a successful road trip, but the Blazers were in this game and had a chance to win it. Unfortunately, they could not get the job done. But first, this is the Blazers Uprise post-game show presented by Bet Online. Portland was a 6-point underdog going into this game. Anthony Simons hits a three at the buzzer. That didn't matter, but it helped the Blazers cover the spread. They've been covering the spread all year long, and if you want to get in on some of that action, or any NBA action, or golf, or boxing, or anything that you want to get in on the action for, BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Check out BetOnline. Use promo code BELIEVE to receive 50% rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. Eric, how are you feeling after this game? Just Whoops, I messed up the graphic. Emotionally, the very tough loss, but a very successful road trip. Are you frustrated? Are you okay given the games that the Blazers won on this road trip and it's still a successful trip? Or where do you lie? And what are your emotions?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm frustrated that we lost this game, but, you look at the bigger picture, 4-2 on the road. Just the reason why I'm frustrated is because this was a very winnable game, especially we took a 106-103 lead with, I think, right around 3 minutes left after Dame hits a long three. And, just kind of frustrating that we then proceeded to give up 5 straight open three-pointers. The Mavs hit 4 of them, and that's ball game. So unfortunately, our clutch gene or whatever it is that we've been talking about all year did not show up tonight. And we lost a game we probably could have escaped with a win. Yeah. Despite several players not playing well. So yeah, it's tough that we when you just look at this individual game, but yeah, the bigger picture, it's not going to hurt us too much as long as we take care of business at home over the next 3 games.
For me, it's nothing to do with, the clutch gene or anything. It was a coaching mistake there down the stretch, in my opinion. And obviously, what I'm about to talk about is just one thing in the bigger picture. The Blazers struggled at times in many areas during this game. But whenever there is, in my opinion, what I see as a very dumb coaching decision, it gets frustrating. No matter how good the team is, no matter even if they're up, just stuff that doesn't make sense to me from a coaching standpoint, from a substitution standpoint, gets extremely frustrating, especially when it leads directly to losses that you should have foreseen. Christian Wood fouls out of this game. That ended up being a good thing for the Dallas Mavericks there down the stretch. They subbed in, who'd you say they subbed in? Reggie Bullock?
Reggie Bullock, and they went Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway,
Dinwiddie, Luka, and Bullock.
Yep.
Super small ball lineup, Eric. Meanwhile, Portland has Drew Eubanks, who played 33 minutes tonight, which, without Yusuf Nurkic, Eubanks plays a lot. That's understandable, but that goes back to some of the lack of big man depth that we were worried about to start this season. But when the Mavericks go small, with Eubanks playing 30 minutes already, he stays in the game and was absolutely non-existent defensively there on pretty much every one of those threes. The Blazers were giving up wide open three after wide open three in the final 3 minutes because A, Drew Eubanks struggles to keep up with the small ball lineup already, but B, he was obviously gassed. What is he doing in that game with 3 minutes left against a small ball lineup when he's gassed? It makes no freaking sense. And that's the type of stuff that I'm a big Chauncey fan, right? I am a big Chauncey fan. I believe in Chauncey. Chauncey's going to make mistakes. He made a mistake today. But when he makes a mistake that bad, it's extremely frustrating for me because it doesn't make sense in the game gassed against that lineup, and it led to literally open three after open three after open three. Now, Spencer Dinwiddie did get going and then hit a contested one, but what do we always say? You give a team a couple open threes, you give a guy a couple open threes, he finds a rhythm, okay, then he'll make a contested one, right? And this Dallas Mavericks lineup didn't have much of a rhythm there in the second half until that final 3 minutes where they just absolutely went off for a barrage of points. 14 points in the final 3 minutes? Yeah, the Blazers have played good crunch time defense this season, and they've been clutch on both sides of the floor, but when you have such an obvious lineup mismatch like that with a guy who, I mean, even if Drew Eubanks had played 15 minutes, Eric, I still wouldn't want him in against that lineup, but he played twice that up to that point. I mean, it was just pathetic defense down the stretch, and I can't even blame Eubanks. That's not his strength. He's not quick. He was the slowest player on the floor, and he's gassed. Like, what do you expect from him? You got Nasir Little playing 15 minutes tonight. Sub him in the game. You got Jabari Walker, who played good today. He only played 8 minutes tonight, and when he came in those 8 minutes, he provided a spark. Sub him in the game. Yeah, he's a rookie, but at least he has potentially the speed and the energy to keep up with the small ball lineup, or Shaedon Sharpe, or somebody else. Not Drew Eubanks in there down the stretch in crunch time against the small ball lineup that's just moving the ball, not even working for shots. They're just passing the ball around the perimeter and we can't keep up with it. That's extremely frustrating for me. Yeah, and I just want to say, I mean, he only got credit for 2 rebounds, but once again, this isn't a knock on Eubanks. At the beginning of this game, he should have gotten credit for 3 offensive rebounds in our first 3 possessions because we got off to a 7-0 start, and it was all based on him tipping the ball out and got us extra possessions. We missed our first shot on all 3 and still scored anyways, thanks to him. And he had several of those throughout the game. I thought he played fairly solid, about as good as he could have played most of the rest of the game. But you're absolutely right. When Wood goes to the bench, you can't keep that big lineup in with Eubanks. He just has no one to guard, and then on offense, there's no one really has to guard him unless he's near the rim either, so we had no real way of taking advantage of their lack of size. It's not like we can post him up like we could if Nurkic was in the game or even Watford to take advantage of some of that size. And their biggest player, Dorian Finney-Smith, wasn't even guarding him anyway. He was out on Dame. So, yeah, we have to find a way to – I mean, you don't always want to match what the other team's doing and let them dictate what's going on, but we've had success in almost every time in the crunch when we've gone to the small ball lineup, and that was the perfect opportunity to do so. And I felt like we made a huge mistake there, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then also you can make the argument that Josh Hart shouldn't have been in the game. He was terrible tonight. 0 for 9 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. And also defensively, he did not have a good game. He played 36 minutes. What happened to mixing up lineups at the end of games? I know they'll go small when they have Winslow, but it's like, dude, you can play Sharpe in the final 3-4 minutes, Chauncey. You can play him at the end of a game. You can play Nas at the end of a game when the other option is Eubanks against a small ball lineup or Josh Hart, who is 0 for 9 today. Dallas stopped guarding Josh Hart behind the three-point line. Yeah, when the ball got kicked to him, they would close out, but the closeouts weren't even close, and Josh Hart did not have the confidence to shoot the ball. It's funny because I feel like Josh Hart's feel for the game is just off. There's something off with him. He went 2 for 6 from the free throw line today. All 4 of his misses were short, and like obviously short, and you could tell when it left his hand, and I think he could tell when it left his hand that they were short. Like Josh Hart was just absolutely brutal tonight. Dallas didn't even have to guard him. Then they started loading up on Dame. Dame couldn't get all the way to the rim and finish. He'd have to kick out. Dame still had a solid game because he got to the free throw line a bunch. Ant shot the ball decently. Jeremy Grant was phenomenal, 37 points. But Josh Hart was not keeping that Dallas defense honest when he was out there on the floor. Like, Nas has shot the ball well. Why can't he end the game? You know what I mean? You look at the minutes the starters played. 33, 39, 38, 36, 39. That's Eubanks, Grant, Lillard, Hart, Simons. Just absolutely ridiculous. On the 6th and final game of a road trip, I probably would not have kept Josh Hart in that game down the stretch. His rebounding was needed, especially without Nurkic. 9 rebounds for Hart. He's rebounding the ball well, but dude, it's frustrating when an opposing team can load up on Dame because Josh Hart just is an absolute non-threat. And then on the other end, they just got to pass the ball around the arc and they're guaranteed an open three in crunch time.
Well, part of the problem too with Hart is he wasn't playing on ball much, especially in the second half. So down the stretch, they were sending a double really early as soon as like Dame or Ant, whoever had the ball, dribbled anywhere near the 3-point line. They just sent a double team. And then we'd kick it around and it would end up in Hart's hands. And he'd hesitate and, he's not going to shoot when he's 0 for 9. His drives, like you said, there's something a little off lately with him on those. So the defense could just completely recover, especially when they went small. And so once we passed to Hart, they completely got away with double teaming Dame, and we took no advantage of it. So either you have to have Hart bring the ball up and initiate the offense if he's going to be in, or you have to set it up to where he's getting the ball on the run going towards the basket instead of catching it around the 3-point line and having to make something happen once the defense recovers, because that was not working tonight. You got to figure out a way to get Dame and Ant going off ball using Josh to set it up. And we had been doing a good job with using Winslow in that situation, even though he can't really shoot in those moments either. But Chauncey had been doing a good job of setting it up to where we had some off-ball action for Dame and Ant, so they couldn't get double-teamed as easy. And I don't understand why we can't do that with Hart, especially if he can't make a shot or is unwilling to shoot in most cases. If he's going to be in the game, I think they need to find a way to do it that way instead of just running Dame and Ant into double teams.
Josh Hart cannot be Evan Turner. He can't be Evan Turner. We're good this year because, for the most part, he hasn't been Evan Turner, but his confidence is shot. His feel for the game is off. And it's funny because I tweeted that out during the Heat game, right? And he hit that buzzer-beating 3 from the quarter, which was awesome. And I had people sitting there saying, this aged well, like it was a terrible take. Never said he can't make a corner 3 or make a jump shot. I think it's been pretty obvious that his feel for the game is off, and now I have a bunch of people on Twitter saying he was terrible tonight. Yeah, this is not the Josh Hart we saw last year. I know he's trying to play a more facilitatory role, but you still have to make use of your opportunities when you get them. And 2 for 6 from the free throw line absolutely killed this team. His free throw shooting killed this team today, right? Like Grant and Dame shot 23 free throws. They were 21 for 23, right? But you kind of expect that from those guys. Josh Hart cannot be 2 for 6 from the free throw line. Ant missed a free throw. Jabari Walker got to the line 4 times, made 3 of them. But that 2 for 6 in a close game down the stretch seems meaningful. There's a couple times he had terrible closeouts. Like, Josh Hart was just absolutely brutal tonight. So I don't understand playing him 36 minutes and playing him down the stretch. Chauncey needs to have more trust in other guys playing crunch time minutes if Josh Hart's struggling, or I don't know, don't play Drew Eubanks against a freaking small ball lineup when he's played 30 minutes. Like, that should be pretty self-explanatory. Now,
well,
go ahead.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
I think here's the trouble, though. The Eubanks thing is inexcusable. That's like a no-brainer in my mind. But in terms of Hart, we have a situation where every game this year, Chauncey has gone to certain guys like Hart. Dame's had his moments, Ant's had his moments in the clutch, Grant's had his moments in the clutch on a few occasions, and they've delivered for him. So it's hard to, in a one-game setting, even though Hart's having a bad game, sometimes it's still good to believe in him if he hasn't shown a history of not performing in that. Now, next game, Chauncey might question whether he should have Hart in there, but I don't have a problem with keeping with someone who's struggling within the context of he hasn't really wilted in any of those big moments at all this season so far. Even with bad games, he's still made good defensive plays or gotten a clutch rebound or something like that. So he's made plays in games, so I understand why he's stuck with him. It's just if it becomes a pattern where he's exposing our offense kind of by being out there, then I think we got to go away from it.
That's fine and all, But why is Nas only playing 15 minutes and Hart's playing 36? Like, both those guys struggled defensively in this game. Chauncey was getting at Nas at one point during this game, but Josh Hart did not play good defense tonight. So, okay, fine, you want to finish and show trust in him. Why does he have to play 36 minutes?
Right.
Like, when he's over 9, did not make a single field goal. Only points from the free throw line where he shot terribly. Like, what? Why? I don't understand that. But there's something else I didn't understand from Chauncey in this game. In the first half, Trendon Watford was absolutely lost defensively. In 12 minutes in this game, he was a team worst minus 14. Plus minus is noisy, so don't read too much into it. But when he was the guy struggling on the defensive end, that's to be understood. But, Luka picked him apart when he was off the ball with that second unit. Had numerous dimes to Christian Wood just for dunks around the rim, with Watford not recovering back correctly or just being in the right spots. And Watford's a solid positional defender. He had a bad game in that regard tonight. But then Chauncey has the brilliant idea, okay, well, he's being absolutely cooked off the ball defensively. Let's put him on Luka.
Yeah, let's make sure he gets switched on to him every time.
Was it a switch? Because it was like 5 times in a row Watford's guarding Luka Doncic there in the first half.
Dallas does a good job of like hunting. Like, they'll see a player they want Luka to guard, and they'll just find a way for Luka to do it, whether he gets the ball in a different spot against the zone where Watford has to come up right in the middle or whatnot. Like, they just find a way to get the guy they want guarding him on there. And yeah, unfortunately, Watford got put in some bad positions tonight.
If it's zone, it's fine, because you can help out of a zone a little bit easier, right? Because you just have guys in certain spots, and then guys are supposed to, rotate from point A to point B. It's a little bit simpler, actually. But if your whole plan is to just mindlessly switch everything, why don't you just go small? Mm-hmm. It's like since we didn't have Justice Winslow, it's like Chauncey did not want to go small, which makes no sense. Small ball lineups have been really good this year. I talked about it in the video I dropped earlier today that, I still absolutely believe in. This is just kind of a bad game, and, every team's going to lose some. 4-2 road trip is very successful, obviously, right? So in the big picture, nothing changes because I'm frustrated with this game. My opinions, expectations don't change. Still very high on this team right now. But it's a situation like just go small so that you can switch Nas onto him. Like, Nas plays 15 minutes. Yeah, Nas has been rough defensively this year, but I have more confidence in him being against Luka than Trendon Watford, and challenge Nas because we know he has that defensive potential and has had good moments locking down star offensive players last season. But he plays 15 minutes, right? Drew Eubanks and Trendon Watford combined for 45 out of the 48 minutes for the Portland Trailblazers today. Sharp plays less than 20, plays 19. Nas plays 15. Jabari Walker plays 8, and Jabari Walker was good tonight. Like, just play those guys more and go small if you're going to switch. Don't just sit there switching your backup center, who's been terrible defensively already, onto Luka for Luka to just pick him apart. That's so stupid.
Yeah, well, the only thing I'll say to that is I think they still kind of think of Trendon as a small ball 5. Now, tonight he wasn't because he was the backup, but I still think they think they're going small when they have Trendon in there at the 5.
But that's he's not switchable onto Luka. Mm-hmm. He's not like, hopefully someday he can be that type of defender. He just doesn't have the on-ball, he's not that good of an on-ball defender, and he's not that quick laterally. Right? So it's like, okay, sure, you think of him as a small ball 5, but if you're going to run a switching lineup, put in a switching lineup. Because Trendon Watford, you don't want him switched out onto Luka. Luka's going to feast anyway, but you want to have the best chance at winning a game. You got to try and keep the best defensive players on Luka that you can. You don't just sit there like, okay, well, we're going small because Trent Watford's a small ball 5, but he can't stand a chance on Luka, but we're just going to switch him and let him switch on to him anyway, and that's just what we're going to do, right? Like, it's just stuff like that. I felt like this game was mismanaged, and it's probably little things compared to the past when our whole style of play was completely bad, but the Watford on Luka thing seriously annoyed me in the first half.
Well, like in theory, Watford should be like a decent person to put on Luca, but here's the problem when why it's such a mismatch. Watford, a lot of his defense is predicated on like quick hands and knocking the ball loose when the other player is driving or trying to get around him. Watford will go for the ball versus just staying in front of the guy. Luca thrives off that, and we had pretty much everyone on our team commit some stupid reach-in foul when Luca's going to the basket. Like, just stay in front of him, don't reach, make him make a tough lay-in. He's probably going to make more than he's going to miss, but he's not getting his teammates involved when you do that, and he's not getting to the line if you're not reaching. And Watford, unfortunately, just has a horrible habit of reaching. Even on plays where he wasn't guarding Luca, he still reached in and got a foul or two in this game, and you just can't do that against a guy that's that crafty and gets to the line. If you reach in, he's just going to play up that contact every time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought the refs in this game were pathetic buying some of that Luka stuff, but Dame got to the line 17 times, so I can't really complain. Luka got to the line 18 times. We actually shot more free throws, so I can't sit here complaining about the refs. Down the stretch, though, it felt like every call went their way.
I mean, did Chauncey use the challenge, though?
Okay, another thing. Chauncey, use your freaking challenge. Dog, I am so sick and... This is just going to be a stream where I rant about coaching. This is a throwback stream. But I am so sick and tired of there being, like, obviously bad calls in the first half that opposing teams will get points off of, and Chauncey won't challenge it. And it's like, oh, well, we're going to save it for a meaningful play in the fourth quarter. Well, 2 points in the first quarter is 2 points in the fourth quarter. Like, you're going to save it until you have something obvious to challenge. I don't want him to save it for a play that has a 25% chance of saving 2 points at the end of a game compared to using it on a play that has a 50% chance of saving 2 points in the first quarter. Right? Like, it's just basic math and statistics, right? But it seems like he keeps saving it even when there's an obvious call that goes against us that is a terrible call and we could save a couple of points. I felt this way multiple times all year, and Chauncey saves his challenge. Well, and then there's multiple games where it's like, at the end of it, he didn't use it at all.
There was that play where, I don't think it was Luka, I think it was Christian Wood had Dame in the post, and he completely hooked him, and Dame got called for the foul. I think that would have been Wood's sixth foul. I mean, obviously, we know how it worked once he went out, so it might not have been a good thing, but I thought that would have been a good time to challenge. Would have fouled out Wood at the time and not gotten the foul on Dame. They wouldn't have got the free throws or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough when you hold the challenge and then you look back and you're like, oh man, close game. One key play at any point in this game could have helped.
And I'm reading chat, and some people are saying they like saving it. I don't understand why using it in the first quarter is different than using it in the fourth quarter. And people saying, like, 2 points doesn't matter. How many 2-point wins do we have this season? We have two buzzer beaters, right? Like, Josh Hart's a 3-point win because he hit the buzzer beater, but that was a tie game on the final possession. We've beaten Phoenix twice by 2 points. Like, how many close wins do we have? 2 points matters no matter if it's scored in the first or the fourth quarter. Like, every possession matters.
I mean, I do see it both ways, but
what's the point of saving it? Especially if half the time you never use it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure... I know in the Heat game we got the foul called on Ant on Bam, and it got reversed late in that game, and that won us the game pretty much having that challenge still.
Yeah, but what? It was a tied game then?
I want to say in Phoenix there was... no, I think we were down at that point. Because that game we were down...
No, we weren't down. I don't think we were down. No, we were up. We were up 1. Because then we went down, hit 2 free throws, and Strus hit the 3. And then Josh hit the game winner. So, okay, we were up 1. Like, what if we were up 3? You know what I mean? Then it's like, oh, well, we didn't challenge at the end of the game to save the game with the challenge. Like, it seems more important when you challenge in that scenario when Bam Adebayo hooks up or down 1 with 14 seconds left, right? But if you use it in the first quarter and you're up 3 instead of 1 in that situation, like, all of a sudden playing defense gets a lot
it would work
easier.
out the same, but yeah. But
but that's just butterfly effect, you change one.
But yeah, it's not guaranteed that you would still be up that amount. I look at it this way: if there's an egregious call, that's an obvious one that saves you either 2 or 3 points. Maybe it's an and one or something. I think you got to use it anytime. If it's not egregious, if it's questionable at all, you can't use it. But yeah, I don't know if there was any calls. I mean, there were some bad calls in the first half, but I don't know if there were any that were like you had to use it there. You know what I mean?
I thought there was a couple that would have definitely been overturned, and then they don't use it, right? Yeah. Because there was a game where, the Phoenix game, the first Phoenix win, he doesn't use it earlier in the game when he probably could have. And then they are down 2 at the free throw line, right? Because of a foul call. And we have 1 timeout left. And he's like, oh, gotta use it. And it was obviously a defensive foul on Nurkic. So we lose the challenge, lose our timeout, can no longer advance the ball. And Ayton's at the line with 2 free throws to tie it. Right? That actually hurt us because we lost our chance to advance the ball if we made both, and it was a tie game because we lost our final timeout. But it's we saved it all game. We got to use it now. You know what I mean? So, but that's the thing is, people my whole problem with saving a challenge late in a game is how are you so certain that you're going to get a play late in the game that's challengeable, right? Like the Bam Adebayo, okay, cool. That play was a good challengeable play, but more often than not, there's not an obviously bad call in the fourth quarter to use it on, and it's becomes a situation we shouldn't use it on this play because that might not be overturnable, and then you don't use it. It's so hard to find a perfect play to challenge it on, like that Bam play in the final 3-4 minutes of a game, and all of a sudden you don't use it when you could have saved 2 points earlier in the game.
It makes it tougher though when the out of bounds isn't an automatic ref look at anymore. So that happens a lot where it's a rebound or something. I think that's happened at least once, if not twice this year towards the end of a game where it saved us a possession or something. But
sorry, I gotta respond to this. Cody says you'd lose the locker room with that one, Tori. How would listening to a player's request to challenge a play in the first half, especially if it's something that gets overturned, how would that lose the locker room? The locker room is that fragile? I don't agree with that.
But how many times, too, that happened kind of in this game, too, where the other team has had some plays that they could have challenged, but the coach used their challenge early in the game. Even if they
you use it on the right call. You don't use it on it might be or might not be. I'm not saying to just waste it in the first quarter, right? But if it's obvious, you use it. If it's obvious and saves points, you use it. That's the criteria for me to use it in the first half. If it's an obviously bad call that gifts the other team points, or it's the fourth foul on Dame or something like that can get overturned and it matters like that, then you use it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, not using the challenge. There's just a few little things in this game that frustrate me from the coaching department. What are your other kind of takeaways from how the Blazers play in this game? Or do you want me to thank Donos before we segue it? Okay. Shout out Carson Dunn. $5 donation says, tough L tonight. 6-2 on the road this year. Not bad, though. Also streaming right now while broadcasting your audio. Hope that's cool. Love you guys. Thank you, Carson, for the $5 dono. Yeah, man. Do whatever you want. Appreciate the support. Shout out Cody Franklin. $5 donation says, we're clearly the better team. They got carried by Spencer. This team ain't better than us. Yeah, I don't think this team is better than us, Eric. Yes, we were shorthanded, but I still come away from this game dang, we did not play well. Jeremy Grant played phenomenal, but Dame didn't shoot the ball well. Josh Hart was terrible. We didn't have Nurk. We didn't have Winslow, which would have this is the game we needed Winslow to put up against Luka, right? We needed Winslow to guard Luka in this game instead of Trent Watford for a stretch there. We were shorthanded, but it still came away from this game not impressed with Dallas. Like, yeah, Luka did his thing. He ended up with 42 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. And Spencer Dinwiddie goes off to end the game, 20 points, 7 for 11 from the field, 6 assists. Christian Wood, 7 for 11 off the bench. Like, we did not play a good game. We made a lot of coaching mistakes. They were healthy, we weren't, and they still barely beat us.
Mm-hmm. I do think we need to find a way, because that double team was kind of flustering us. There was a spot where we got like 4 open threes and we missed all of them in a row. It was about halfway through the fourth quarter. That was tough. But yeah, got to find a way to attack that pressure when they double team either Dame or Ant. You can't just give the ball to the other person and let them get double teamed. Bringing the ball up. That's what I said. Why I said earlier that we should have used Hart more on ball, maybe, so he wasn't having to be put in the spot where he's catching the ball off of those passes. But yeah, got to figure out something there. I don't know. I mean, Dallas is good. Luka's a nightmare matchup for any team, and he can carry any team no matter how good their team is around him. So it's funny to say that Spencer carried them when Luka had a 42-point triple-double or whatever he had. But that's
carried in crunch time because it wasn't even Luka in crunch time.
Well, I mean, Luka's passing to wide open teammates because we're so focused on Luka. So a lot of that is because of Luka. I mean, Dinwiddie's not that open if Luka is not the guy he is. So yeah,
I vented out my frustrations about playing Eubanks in that 3 minutes, but I still am so frustrated about that. Mm-hmm. Like. You gotta pay attention to Luka. You almost have to double Luka most of the time. You need speed to rotate behind that to fill in the gaps. Mm-hmm. Like, you need speed. You need to, especially if they're small. Like, you can't. If you can play it straight up, then okay, you don't have to rotate as much. Okay, maybe Drew Eubanks is fine. But when you're having to deal with Luka and then 4 shooters, you need speed to be able to rush a double at him, to rotate out of that, rotate to the extra pass, like fly around on defense. And that's what they've been doing in crunch time. That's why they were, the second rated defense in terms of points given up in the fourth quarter. I think they're probably going to drop from that, but that's what they've been doing. It's like, since we don't have Justice, like, okay, well, we got to play Eubanks. No.
Well, the other thing that we haven't really talked about is we gave up open threes like the entire game. So it's not... They just did not shoot well from 3 at times. And, of course, at the end, when it mattered, they hit all of them. But they finished the game 32.6%. That is including hitting 4 threes in a row. So if you take away those 4 threes at the end, it's 10 for 39. So that's, 27% or something? Like, they did not shoot well, and most of those were wide open.
Yeah. And we shot well from 3, 13 for 31. Didn't take a ton of them. But 36 points in the paint. The Blazers have been able to attack the paint. They
don't really have any paint defenders. Like, that's so frustrating.
I know, yeah.
I mean, we don't have Nurkic, but yeah.
This team... Let me just say this, okay? Like, I know the small ball unit has been great statistically on the season, but I feel like this was the type of game where you really missed Nurkic. Like, they picked us apart at times in the paint. Mm-hmm. Just Luka passing it to somebody. And there's times where, like, Eubanks or Watford was in the area, but they aren't the presence that Nurkic is, right? And Nurkic is better defensively than both of them. Like, we missed Nurkic's defense on the interior in this game. And then also, we rebound the ball fine, but just being able to clear space for Dame off screens. Like, how much space did Dame get off screens? I felt like he had no space off pick and rolls this entire game. And good screen setting is extremely underrated, man. And that's something that people that are super critical of Nurkic underrate with him. He clears so much space for Dame to get him going. And it's so hard to guard Dame because his defender gets cleared out of plays because Nurkic sets such good screens. We missed those screens today. Like, Dame was smothered, it felt like, the entire game. And part of it was because he couldn't get space off a pick and roll.
Mm-hmm. That's always going to be a problem when Nurk's not out there.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we talk center upgrades in the future, like, I almost think they have to be a good screen setter. which is something that's hard to judge, hard to quantify. But yeah, you gotta have a good screen setter for Ant, for Dame, in order to get that space coming off that pick and roll, because that makes him so much more deadly, especially if it's like, oh, do I help off Jeremy Grant, who has 37 in this game?
Yeah.
So we're looking at the team stats now. I'll take the rest of the donations, and then I want your thoughts on any of the other team stats on the sheet. Shout out Gray Hughes Investigates, $10 donation, says he should have used the challenge on that call on Drew. That was a joke. Anyway, lots of standing around tonight and bad shooting other than Grant, yet we still almost won. Pretty amazing. Thank you, Gray, for the $10 donation. Since you brought it up, Eric, I could feel good about like Dame not shooting the ball well, but Dallas probably should have shot better given the threes that they got. So
That's
I guess
for sure.
it cancels out, you know.
Yeah.
But still, I don't recall the challenge call on Drew that he's talking about specifically. Do you know what play he's?
Oh yeah, it was the one where Luka drove, and Eubanks didn't even touch him, and they called a foul. I don't remember if it was an and one or not, but Eubanks did not even touch him, and yeah, he was driving. If you're looking at the basket down the right, like basically right on the line of the paint.
Yeah. Carson, yes, I read your dono. Sorry you weren't here for it, but shout out to you.
He's
again
too
for
busy
donating.
streaming, and I
Yeah,
thought he was listening, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
jeez.
Carson, I read off your dono a few minutes ago. People in chat saying we need Miles Turner. See, that's exactly my point, is people don't appreciate good screen setting, and then they don't appreciate rebounding. Miles Turner is one of the worst rebounding centers in the entire league. And you're going to pair him next to one of the worst rebounding power forwards in the entire league? Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. Yeah. So you guys would get frustrated with that. All you people asking for Miles Turner, after about 20 games, you guys would be lamenting our rebounding issues and Dame not being able to get space off screens like he couldn't tonight. Anyway, shout Jason Hawley, $2 donation, says, should have challenged the Dame 3-point shot in the fourth. See, there's a number of calls, and I'm not capable of remembering every call that maybe he should have challenged. I don't even have a specific one off the top of my head. I just remember there's a few points in this game where I felt like Chauncey should have used his challenge. So I know it's a debate. People like saving it. I still don't understand it. But it's like, if you're going to save it, use it at some point, man. I mean, the worst thing to do is, oh, wow, there's calls that are probably overturnable. You don't even use your challenge.
Yeah, I mean, we're down 7, I think, when Dame got fouled. So, I mean, he cut it to 4 if he makes all 3, which he missed the first one out of the 2 anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, at that point, it was kind of game over anyway. But, yeah, you might as well use it, I guess, at that point.
Yeah. Shout out to Bob and Weave, $5 donation, says, barely made contact on those screens at the end. Why did we switch? Go under. Doncic is shooting 29% from 3. Why leave 43% Dinwiddie open? I don't get it. Thank you, Bob and Weave, for the $5 donation. I mean, Luka shoots difficult threes, like difficult contested step backs and stuff. You don't want to give Luka open threes. Like, he will get hot if you give him open threes. But if you don't have a better plan, I mean, that might be the best option compared to whatever the hell the Blazers were doing almost this entire game.
Yeah, and once again, I feel like, yeah, I think that's right. I think we pressured him too much up top, even when he took a couple dribbles inside the 3-point line. Like, if he's going to shoot 18-footers off 1 foot, I mean, I know he made, I think it was in the first half where he made some ridiculous 1-foot fadeaway jump shot from the free throw line or whatever. It's like, let him have those. Like, it doesn't hurt you. You won't lose if he's not going to hit 30 of those, right? So I think we're playing too far up. You don't want to give him threes, like you said, but you also don't want to let him get by you, because once he gets by that initial defender, it's really tough to recover on him. And like I said, it led to several fouls with people reaching in and not just staying in front of him. And then we didn't rotate right, and then all the defense collapses, and then they leave a shooter open. So, yeah, I don't know if going under is necessarily the right move, but I feel like you need to play him aggressive at certain areas on the court and less aggressive in others. and just make him beat you from different spots than he's comfortable doing. And like I said, if he's shooting those 17-foot shots, it's fairly inefficient. So if he makes a bunch, you live with it. And two, he's not getting his teammates involved like he did in the fourth quarter and lets a Dinwiddie make 3 in a row. And then the third one is just like heat check because he just made 2. And yeah, unfortunately, that was the game right there.
Yep. Anything else jump off this page in terms of team stats?
I thought it was good that we only had 12 turnovers. I mean, still, I think Dame had 4 or 5 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see how many Dame finished with. 5. Yeah, it's almost half of them from Dame.
He had 2 at some point in the third quarter, I believe, and then had 3 there. I mean, they were smothering him, so you kind of expect that, and he did end up with 12 assists, so 12 assists, 5 turnovers, you'll generally live with that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 12 on a whole, but yeah, I forgot who it was, but someone, I think it was Grant this game, just lost the ball right to the other team. Dame made some bad passes. He got caught on the baseline and tried to throw to the far corner, and there's a guy standing right there a couple times. Still got to figure those kind of turnovers out, but yeah, I mean, I guess you'd live with 12 considering how this season's gone so far. Free throw shooting, missing 8 free throws, losing by 5, that always hurts. Yeah. But yeah, overall, we didn't shoot too bad.
Yeah, I mean, 42%, you'll live with that. Maybe should have looked for more 3-point attempts, but I thought Dallas did a good job kind of running us off the 3-point line at times. But I don't know. As far as like Dame and dump-off passes go, do you feel like it's easier for him to connect with Nurkic than Eubanks? Like, I feel like Nurkic, because he's bigger and bulkier and wider, he's able to carve out more space for a target for Dame, whereas there's times where like it'll seem like Eubanks is open for a dump-off pass, and I don't know if he's not ready or just not in the spot Dame expects him to be, or if it's because he's just can't carve out as much space to give Dame a good target. But it seems like Dame has more trouble connecting with Eubanks on dump-off passes than he does with Nurk.
Well, I think we have to use it different. You see how Luka gets Powell like easy dunks throughout the game. You got Wood a couple of the same, where it's just like he just throws it up there, they go up and lay it in or dunk it, and that's more Eubanks' strength, is doing that kind of stuff, not catching the ball around the free throw line and working in the short roll. So I think maybe when it's Eubanks, especially in a game when Nurk isn't in, if Eubanks is only playing like 15 minutes and it's mostly with the second unit, this probably wouldn't matter too much. But we got to figure out a way to play without Nurk sometimes too, because he's going to miss games throughout the season. So I wish we'd do it more like other teams do to us, where it's you're getting Eubanks rolling to the rim and you're lobbing it up for him versus trying to make him catch in traffic around the free throw line.
Yep. I mean, the way you beat Luka, too, is just you don't want to double him on the perimeter, whereas like a guy like Dame, you can kind of get away with it. Luka's just taller, so he's able to see over that double team easier and just kind of like relax and let it come to him and then just make the right pass wherever that is and pick apart any double teams on the perimeter where he still has his dribble. I thought there's a few times, especially in the first half, Luka still had his dribble, Blazers trapped, and he made a really good pass out of it, and Dallas got a wide open shot. Like, I think the game plan to beat Dallas is to try and put as good of an on-ball defender up against Luka as possible. When Gary Payton II is back, that would be fun to watch. You have him, Justice Winslow, having those two guys will help, but you put as good of an on-ball defender on him as possible to try not to let him drive the lane. But then once he gets within 15 feet, then you send help onto him, right? And then you have to rotate correctly on the kick-out passes. He does a really good job kicking it out, and Dallas does a really good job playing off that, shooting the open three or making the extra pass, swinging it around the perimeter, right? Like, that's how you beat Dallas. You don't help when he's just standing there on the perimeter where he can just make the right pass and it's, somebody will be open. You wait until he drives. You double team him if he gets below 15 feet. If he hits like a contested 17-foot step back or fade away, fine. Like, you got to live with something with Luka. You double team him when he gets within 15 feet. Try not to let him get all the way to the rim. Try not to foul him, of course. The second defender should make it easier to hopefully not foul. And then you got to rotate on the kick-out passes. And then when he's off the ball, you deny him. That's how you beat Dallas. That's how you defend against Dallas. And tonight, the Blazers didn't really do a good job of any aspects of that.
Not at all.
So, anyway, those are the team stats. Do you want to jump into breakdowns or player cards? I'll let you pick.
Let's do breakdowns because it's kind of they're all positive.
You did positive ones and a loss. Wow.
Well,
I'm surprised.
This. It's hard to do ones from the end of game and then get ready to do the show. So,
we were down 16 in the first half.
Yeah.
But we did have that fun stretch. I will say this.
I watched the first half on my phone on my car ride home. So
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. They're
mostly from the third quarter, which is good.
I will say this before we hop into it. Let's talk about this for a second, Eric. The Blazers have to get off to better starts, and I thought they were going to get off to a better start when they started up 7-0, and it was gone in the blink of an eye.
Then we give up 3 open threes.
Yep. The Blazers keep struggling to
2 threes.
Yeah, the Blazers keep struggling to start games. Even if they're up 7-0, 8-2, whatever, it's almost always gone in the blink of an eye. They can never maintain it or build upon it, and there's been too many games where they're down 15. I'll give them credit. Good teams battle back at the end of first halves after a terrible half where they're down double digits, and the Blazers have consistently done that all season long. That's the hallmark of a good team when you do struggle in the first half, but good teams also are able to come out and have better first halves than the Blazers have had this year. The Blazers have struggled and just gotten better as the game has gone on, but it becomes tough because the Blazers have had a lot of close games this year, and a big reason why is because they keep getting off to terrible starts, and then when they start playing really, really well, it's to try and catch up or, build a 5-7 point lead, which the Blazers had a couple times in this game, instead of maybe having a 15-point lead if you just played better during the first half. So what are your thoughts on that?
The starts are bad, but we were up 23-20 in this game, and then same thing, we give up. They go on a 15-2 run to end the quarter, so that's more on the bench in my opinion in this one. So you get off to a 7-0 start, you let them back in, but then it was pretty much, it was toe-to-toe, lead back and forth, tie game, lead back and forth through the teens and into I think it was tied at 20-20. I believe Jeremy Grant hit a 3 to make it 23-20. And then you end the quarter giving up 15 in the last couple minutes and only scored 2. And that's when the game kind of got away from them for a while. So I don't know if that was necessarily to blame on the start of this game. I felt like we made plays at the start outside of that 9-0 run that they had when we went up 7-0 and they called a timeout. But that was just a small part of this game. So I feel like the starters were fine. And it's also hard to judge when you're missing one of your key starters too. But I didn't think the start was necessarily the worst part, but you give up 30 plus points, 35
in the first quarter.
And then 32 in the fourth quarter, I think. So 2 quarters over 30, that's what I'm always looking for is, and in the first quarter, bad. In the fourth quarter, bad, because you're mostly, especially in a close game, you don't want to give up 30 plus points like that. So, that's not good. Our defense, I thought, was pretty good in the second and third quarters, but you can't not play defense down the stretch and get off to questionable starts like we've seen in a lot of games this year.
Well, why do you think the bench is struggling right now, maybe in terms of style of play, or is it just they need to be healthy?
I think it's just we've had, how many games in a row have we had 6 people on the injury report and people are questionable or probable, and Sharp plays tonight, but he's playing with his fingers taped, so you don't know how that affected him. Nas hasn't gotten a ton of consistent minutes this year, so it's hard to blame him. We don't have Keon tonight to give us a spark like he has given us when we've missed guys in the past. And then Winslow has been, I'd say probably behind Nurk, has been our best defender this year. And we're missing him off the bench. Whether he's scoring or not, he's still been a factor with that bench unit, but there was a spot in the beginning of the fourth quarter. We went into the fourth with the lead, and we didn't keep the lead with Luke out of the game, and that kind of stuff hurts. But I mean, we're missing so many guys that it's hard to blame the bench because it's not like our normal bench unit right now.
Yeah. I feel like in the past couple of games, the bench unit has gotten a little bit too stagnant at times.
Yeah.
And like shooting wise, everybody off the bench shoots greater than 50%. But Simon's playing with the bench unit today. And, last game, I don't even remember who was like the backup point guard because Dame was out. So it was kind of by committee. But in general, it's become a situation where like they're having to create up against the shot clock, or Simons is having to create up against the shot clock, and it's kind of a struggle for quality shots. Nas and Sharp have to cut better. Like Sharp isn't cutting quite as much as he was earlier on in the season or in preseason, and that's something that I loved about him. Like because he's such an off-ball threat. He had that game against Charlotte. He cut really well. Like Sharp, when he's consistently moving, consistently cutting, it just is an extremely good player because he gets good opportunities around the rim, has the athleticism to make it happen, right? But he has to consistently do it. I feel like the past couple of games, or he didn't play yesterday against the Pelicans, but there's been a couple of games on this road trip where he's stood around a little bit too much or just kind of like sat in the corner. And Nas as well. Basically, almost everything for Nas. I know he scored a lot in the paint last game, but it was mostly off of him creating off the dribble. He did have that cut off that inbounds play that Winslow found him on, but I feel like in general, it's been a little bit too stagnant with the bench lineup. But that's why I liked having Jabari in there, because Jabari made a good cut, got to the free throw line, and that was one of the plays Nas finally cut. They both cut to the same spot. So with Winslow's a key part of that. I just feel like it's looked a little bit more stagnant the past couple of games.
Yeah, I think with Sharp, I'm pretty sure he hurt his finger on the rim.
Did he?
I don't know. Did they announce what he actually hurt it on? Because I didn't hear, but I feel like in the Charlotte game, he kind of was shaking his hand after one of those dunks.
Maybe that's why he finger rolled today.
Yeah, so I think maybe he was like, okay, I gotta stop like trying to throw it down so hard, but that would suck. Maybe he was just a little tentative, but also like tonight, this isn't excuse why he didn't cut, because you can cut with a hurt hand. It doesn't matter what, you could have no hands and you could still cut, right? But I think he was a little gun shy because his fingers, he's not used to playing with them taped together or whatever. But
which makes sense.
Yeah.
And he was 2 for 3 and knocked down a 3, so that was cool. Let's jump into your breakdowns. Yeah.
The other thing is, real quick, is Ant, I think, is getting a little. I mean, we've seen him get really hot, but I think he's taken just a little bit too tough of shots at that second unit sometimes. I think he feels like he has got to take the game over, which he certainly can. I think he's just got to pick his spots a little better and run some more structure with that offense.
Yeah, I agree. His stat line looks a little better at the end of the game. We'll talk about that when we get into his player card. First, breakdown, Eric, what do we got?
All right, so we have a play here where, we're in a normal defense where Grant is going to guard the best player on the other team, and Powell's going to come set a screen for him. And we're actually going to, in the second slide, send a double team after Luka. And like you mentioned, they're very good, or Luka in particular. You can't really double team him because we have our two biggest players on the court right here.
Yeah.
And he still easily finds Powell on this roll here. So unless you're like completely in this first slide when the second slide where Luka has kind of his back turned, you have to basically get him aggressively towards the sideline. Don't let him turn around if you're Eubanks there and you're going to double team. And Eubanks doesn't do that, and it's kind of a weak double team. And then Grant's kind of like, oh, should I double or should I go with Powell? They both end up staying there. And so he throws this pass to Powell in the middle of the paint in the third slide. Now, Hart's going to do a great job of rotating. But you can see right now, this is why we give up open threes, because if Powell just gets this ball and passes to the corner, he's got Finney-Smith for a wide open three. But instead, Powell's going to try and take it to him. And Josh Hart, this is one of the best plays of the night. He gets up into Powell, so when he catches the ball and turns around, he's like right there, and it kind of baffles him. And then look where Eubanks is right now. And then in the final slide, look, Eubanks has recovered all the way down in a split second. So good job of getting back into the action. And they end up calling Powell for a travel here. But just good help by Hart. Good. I don't like the trap, but at least Eubanks got back and recovered. We didn't get an open shot, forced a turnover, basically because Hart was in the right position and kind of pressed up on the turnaround.
Yep. Everything executed pretty well. Just rotations got to be pinpoint. Like, at this point, Ant should already be sinking. And he ends up, up kind of running towards the corner. But still, it's like if he kicks this to Bullock and Ant is sprinting towards the baseline, Ant has no chance of getting back out. And they're spaced very well, but Ant is supposed to take the first pass. So you want him ready to run out at both guys, and you want him defending in between them, right? Mm-hmm. So that he's as close to one as he is to the other, and then the second Powell passes the ball, like Ant's just following the ball and sprinting to where the ball's going, right? Because the ball's obviously going to a player. So, when the ball leaves Luka's hands, Ant should be backing up. Because he knows, okay, there's one corner, Hart's helping over, he's the low man. He should be backing up, like backpedaling and planting himself in between those guys. Instead, like, this is where maybe I don't know if there's a specific play like this where he gave up an open three, but if he's late in terms of like splitting those two guys, then it becomes a situation where he's like running to get in that gap, and then it's really easy to just pass the ball behind him.
Right.
So that's why you want to kind of sink and backpedal into the space in between those guys, so you're still in a body position to run out at either of them and take first pass, and then Hart would take the second pass. So that's one little nitpicky thing there, but that's the thing, is like those little things matter.
Right.
But great rotation by Hart and standing up Powell here. That was really well done by him.
And my next play too will show this again. But this is why I want guys like Hart and Grant to be the help defenders, and just put Ant where Grant is. And just have him on ball or Dame on ball, and then they don't have to be the guy who helps in these situations or the guy who Ant has to decide which guy to guard to, because they're smart enough to know where to go on those. So that's why I'd prefer if Grant was in this Ant position here, and Ant's out there guarding Luka still without not even being in the play. So, like, if we're going to double team, you might as well put either Dame or Ant on Luka to start, because we're going to double team him. And so it doesn't make sense to me to put Grant out there if on a guy like Luka. Maybe a smaller defender or a smaller ball handler that can't pass over the top of Eubanks and Grant there. I can maybe see this setup working a lot better, but not against Luka.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to play number 2.
All right, in the next slide, it's going to be closer to what I was just talking about. Now, we're going to have Grant on Luka, which I think is a decent matchup.
Grant on Luka?
Hart on Luka, sorry.
I wanted to make sure I had the right play here.
I get Hart and Grant. I always say Grant when I mean Hart. I don't know why I do that. Anyways, they're going to, set this dummy pick, which doesn't even really screen, and we're just going to auto-switch it. So we have Ant on Luka. Now, in the fourth quarter, this happened several times where Ant was on Luka, and I thought he did a really good job until Luka got near the block, right around where Dame is standing in this picture.
Yep.
And then Ant would lean towards the basket, the middle side of Luka, and Luka would just spin towards the basket and score. And you want to do the opposite with Luka. I feel like you need to force him to the middle so you have maybe some help there better. I mean, it's tough with Luka. He's probably going to score on Ant. But this is what I'm saying, too, earlier in the show. so what? Like, let him score. At least he's not kicking it out
Yeah.
to a wide open three.
But that's
So
also what I was saying with like design help to come when he gets within 15 feet, which is
mhm.
where the free throw line is, right? So
Yeah,
design it to come from the middle so Ant knows, okay, I got to take away a baseline, I'll have help in the middle.
and it can't come from the baseline really because Luka's so. I mean, he doesn't seem quick, but once he gets to his spot, he can get his shot up even if the help comes. So you have to either have the perfect help like Hart was, where you turn Luka turns around and someone's already there, which is very hard to set up. But it's a lot easier to have that help come and be on time if it's from the middle. So you gotta push him in the middle. But on this particular play, so he's gonna isolate Ant, and he thinks, oh, I'm gonna drive on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Ant doesn't reach. He just stays down, stays in front of him. Luke is actually going to pick up his dribble, and Ant forces him to pass out to I think that's Finney Smith in the top corner there. And so Finney Smith's going to catch the ball, and he's got Eubanks on him, who he blows by, gets to the rim. And this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so in the previous slide, we saw Grant helping in case Ant got beat.
Yep.
But this one, so Grant is also the helper on this drive by Finney Smith. So he's in the helper spot, which is something he is really good at. And we've seen almost every game this year when he's in that spot versus up top in the previous breakdown where he was completely taken out of the play because he's guarding Luka 30 feet from the basket. Now he's in the perfect spot to help the rim because Eubanks is not there. So Finney Smith's going to go in. And in the last slide, we see Grant gets a block on Finney Smith. Great block. Says, give me that. And we get a defensive stop.
Yep.
Because Grant was in perfect position. And so that's two plays within a couple minutes here that we had both Hart and Grant, our best help defenders, in the right spot to help on these plays, and we get stops versus having them up top where they're not in these positions, and we have Dame and Ant in these help positions, which they're not going to block Finney Smith on this. He probably gets a lay-in over them.
Yep.
But this is how you have to stop Luka. You just whatever guy you have on him has to stay in front. Don't reach. Just make him give up his dribble at some point or make a tough turnaround shot over you, and have the right rotations behind it. And I mean, they're still going to win games. They're still a good team, but like you can't fall. You can't be a team that like puts your best defender getting blown by Luka and taken out of these help positions.
Yep, absolutely. And as far as rotations go, if anybody's curious, when you have three players on one side of the court in this situation, it's called overloaded. The guy Hart's guarding is kind of near the top, but whenever you have three players on that side, especially a big man, like Grant helps to the ball off the big man. Dame helps down onto the big man. This is actually really good positioning by Dame being there in case there's a dump-off pass. And then for the other two guys left over there, Dinwiddie, who Dame was guarding, and the guy who Hart was guarding, Hart gets the first pass between those two guys. Dame gets the second pass. Those are the rotations when an offense overloads the weak side of the floor, puts three guys on the opposite side of the floor, and then, drives, like Finney Smith drove in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, anything else on this play you wanted to point out, or next one?
Next play.
Let's do it. Let me put it in.
And I know it doesn't make sense, positive play for the third one, this thing, but I had to include this one, Tori, because it's something that we've wanted. You actually broke out like the clipboard on this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So here we go. Ant's going to bring the ball up. He's going to pass to Dame. Wood thinks Eubanks is going to go set a screen for Dame. Instead, Eubanks sets a back screen for Ant. Wood realizes it, but is not in any position to backtrack and get there in time. And Dame throws a good pass. Actually, not a great pass. It was a little behind Ant. Otherwise, he would have had a dunk. But they run the backdoor screen lob, and it works. And Ant gets a wide open lay-in out of it. And I feel like we could have done more stuff with this, whether it was with Sharp or Hart
Or
getting to the
Nas.
basket. Like just people, if you're struggling from the field, or struggling to get good quality shots, run action like this to where their aggression is used against them up top on Dame and Ant. And I felt like this was a really good play setup, and we finally ran it, so I was happy and had to include it. But
Absolutely,
fortunately,
absolutely. I love that you include that.
we didn't see many good plays like this after this point.
We need more designed lobs in the offense, Chauncey. We got all these athletes. Like, you're going to add Gary Payton II into it, and he can catch a lob, too. Like, while we have... I don't know if we've ran one... I think maybe there's been one lob to Sharp off a design play this year. I don't know, though. Like, we got to utilize this athleticism more. We got all these athletic freaks. Like, even Grant on this play is a good option. Just quick hitter, and it can flow into something else. So, yeah, I loved this set. Easy bucket. Maybe the easiest bucket of the game. Wasn't even executed super cleanly. It didn't matter because it's a good set design. Using Dame's attention to draw Wood towards Dame because he thinks it's another pick and roll, and then use the back screen like the Hans defender ain't keeping up there, so who's going to stop that? Really good set design. Really good set design.
And if Wood does go with Ant and prevents the lob, then you got Eubanks just sets a screen for Dame, and he probably gets an open three off that screen, especially if that's Nurk or whatever. But yeah, yep.
And then that's the thing too, is like Wood, whoever's guarding the big man is like, oh crap, I have to help with the back screen, so he backs off. Then you go set the pick and roll, and then the big isn't there at the point of the screen. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I didn't understand exactly what you were going for there, but yes. I'm just repackaging it as my own analysis.
If you take out the 3-pointer by Ant, the meaningless 3 at the buzzer, so this basket puts us up 98-92 with, you can still see, over 7 minutes on the clock. And we score, outside of that 3-pointer, 11 points the rest of the game and give up 25.
Yeah.
So
not good. Yeah. Offense stopped executing down the stretch. Defense was an absolute mess. Anyway, that was Brant's breakdown. Thank you for that. Let's jump into player cards. And oh yeah, I have to take this down. Let me take down Moneyman Brant and the Brant's breakdown logo. Okay, there we go. You're back. It's not a solo stream again. So Jeremy Grant was phenomenal tonight. 13 for 22, 5 for 9 for 3, 6 for 6 from the free throw line in 39 minutes. He's looking like an all-star right now. Scoring average might be around 20 after this game. I don't know exactly what it's at, but he was phenomenal tonight. Made teams pay for helping on to Dame. Dame had 12 assists, multiple to Jeremy Grant, who scored the ball extremely well. I wanted to get hyped about Jeremy Grant scoring 37 points tonight, and instead I'm like, wow, we really had 37 points from a starting forward and we lost.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I thought Grant had an awesome game. Obviously, really excited about his performance. As like you said, it's just a shame it's in a loss.
Absolutely. But like, where do you think he's like really excelling scoring the ball right now? Obviously, he's shooting the 3 ball like crazy, like 45% right now. I don't expect that to stay at that mark. If it does, then that would be amazing. But still, he's shooting the 3 ball like crazy, but it's more than that.
Yeah, I think, he's getting clean looks. I don't think he's gotten that clean of looks for a long time. I mean, certainly not in Detroit. But I think just getting those side 3-pointers off kickouts from Dame, they're not staying out on him, so he's making them pay.
I would love to see a stat for like what he shoots off of kick out passes from the interior, because I feel like he's really good on passes coming from the paint straight out to him where he's like already square and could just step into it. Like I feel like he's phenomenal on those threes, and he is getting a lot of those from Dame and Ant driving and kicking out to him, and that could explain why he's shooting 45%.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's doing a really nice job of he's deceptively quick from around the free throw line to the rim. And we saw it with he put Zion on skates and went by him, and then gets to the rim like quickly through 4 people last game. And then this game, he had several where he just, if he gets that corner, he's getting to the rim. Had a nice and one in this game. So yeah, it's like he can get going from mid range. Like he can pull up and get his shot pretty much over anyone from about 18 feet. But I almost would rather him just go towards the basket more. But I mean, he's hitting a very good percentage this year. And so I did the math. He is now averaging 20.67 points a game.
Really? You added the extra game and everything?
Yep. 248 points, 12 games.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
20.7, yep.
I think that high was possible mathematically, but yeah, 20 points per game, playing good defense. I mean, if the Blazers are 1 seed in the West, which they could have been after today, god dang it. But if they're the 1 seed in the West around All-Star voting time for the reserves, it will be hard to keep Jeremy Grant out.
Yep. But yeah, it's cool seeing him be like score this much in a game where we had both Dame and Ant.
Yeah.
I really like seeing that because it shows that we can give him the ball maybe and take over. And especially, I felt when Dallas started playing defense the way they did, like I said, maybe run Hart more on the ball, and then maybe have a little bit more set up for Grant to get, like, let him until he proves he can't handle it. I mean, he's showing he can handle it, so let him get going and just keep going like he was in this game, and just let Ant and Dame become like secondary scorers like that. I don't think anyone has an ego enough to think they have to get a certain amount of points or shots. I mean, I know everyone loves scoring and wants to, but I'm sure if they'd much rather have the win. So yeah, I feel like in the fourth quarter when things were kind of bogging down, if we're not going to run a lot of structured offense, like run more through Grant versus running it through Dame and Ant through double teams.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move on and talk about Dame. So we've talked a lot about Dame. Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he struggled shooting today, but getting to the line was good. So his efficiency numbers overall, 29 points on 16 shots, even though he went 6 of 16. Didn't think was bad. Can't have 5 turnovers. It's still a lot, but overall team didn't have a ton. So I thought he was passing the ball really well. Yeah, I actually thought there was a couple times in the fourth quarter where he passed out of maybe like when the other team was in the when Dallas was in the penalty, just get to the line even more. I know that's weird to say when he shot 17 free throws, but you know, Luka wouldn't stop hunting fouls in that situation. Harden doesn't stop ever hunting fouls. So like just keep putting it on the refs to call it. And so I felt like there was a few times this hardly ever happens with Dame, but like where he didn't really look for his shot when he probably could have blown by someone. But yeah, there was one in particular where he drove and probably could have laid it in, but kicked it out. I think he might have kicked it to Hart, who bricked a 3. Yeah, so just those kind of things. But overall, it's hard to. I don't know. Dame played okay. Yep.
Anthony Simons had 24.7 rebounds, 2 assists, 9 for 20 from the field, 5 for 11 from 3. We talked about you talked a little bit about some of the shots he forced. I felt like there was 3 really bad shots he took in this game. One was the one he airballed. One was that sidestep 3 in the corner early in the shot clock, like fading to the out of bounds line. There was one other that I wasn't happy with at all. I forget what it was, but we got to run him off screens more, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think this offense is trending a little bit towards being too stagnant and relying on, okay, you create off the dribble, then drive and kick, then we'll move the ball, then we'll get into our motion. Like we need maybe a little bit more structure, utilizing him coming off screens for 3. You know, he can always turn the corner and attack off that and make a play and kind of get us into the flow of things. And then obviously that backdoor lob you broke down got him an easy bucket on the interior. So I would like to see him utilized a little bit more off the ball, playing off a Grant, playing off a Dame, and even with the bench unit, playing off a Justice Winslow, facilitating, initiating things. That sort of action would be nice to see more of, because it feels like a lot of times he's bailing out a stagnant offense. I think that's partially because he's playing with the bench unit, but I would like to see him utilized more as an off-ball threat.
And I think one of the other things I was talking about earlier is like using Eubanks more as a lob threat. And I feel like, we have take your pick on athletic guy that you can use in that situation. But he's getting by his initial defender, and then he pulls up a lot from like 12 to 15 feet. And I mean, it's 4 for 9 on 2-pointers tonight, which isn't great. So like, I feel like if he just goes in, he can either take it at the big and draw fouls more, or you get the big to commit. But when you're pulling up from like around the free throw line, you're not really getting that big to fully commit. And if you do get him, just take another dribble right at him, there's probably going to be some times where if you have those cutters down the baseline, or you have your big in the dunker spot, that he can just lob it up towards the rim. And he could even get away with probably jumping in the air in those situations and getting it over the big man if he's having trouble in traffic or whatever. But I do feel like Ant's got to find a way to not get caught in the CJ method, I guess. Whereas, like, for some reason, when Dame doesn't play, he's fine as a facilitator, just like CJ was. But like when Dame plays, he doesn't really have any facilitation, and he's even with the second unit when Dame's not in there, he's just hunting the shot and feels like he has to score. And I mean, he's a tremendous scorer. Don't get me wrong. Like I think he can get his shot off. He's proving that he can get to his spots and get his shot off, but he's got to find a way to balance that a little bit. And I think having some more structured offense, like you mentioned, would help with that. Having more cutters, things like that. The spacing still isn't great with the second unit because of the lack of shooting, but you have to find a way for him to get maybe a little bit more playmaking Anthony going instead of just hunting a shot.
Absolutely. Shaden Sharp up next, 5 points. 2 for 3 from the field, knocked down a 3. Just kind of was invisible out there in this game, I think on both ends of the floor. Didn't notice him a whole lot. Playing with those tape fingers, as you said. Is there anything else you want to touch upon with him?
No, just want to see him cut more. And just use his athleticism too to, like I was mentioning, with a trend in to not reach. He's got good footwork. He doesn't finish possessions. Like he'll play good defense and then he'll make a mistake. Whether it's falling asleep or reaching or then using his hand or something, hand checking. Just learn how to use that athleticism to just stay in front of your guy and not commit. Like finish it all the way. Don't then give up a foul even though you were in good position the whole time. But I'm encouraged with how quick he is on defense and how much he's willing to play defense and stuff like that. Just I kind of want to see him guard someone like Luka and just not foul. Just tell him to like hold his hands behind his back or something and not be so handsy with him. But yeah, other than that, it's still hard to criticize him much since he's so young. Like I don't think he really did anything wrong. Like you said, he was mostly kind of invisible for those 19 minutes.
Another rookie playing today, Jabari, 5 points, 4 boards, 1 for 2 from the field, 3 for 4 from the free throw line in 8 minutes. I thought he came in that first half and provided a little bit of a spark. The Blazers were down 16, 49-33 at one point, and he came back in. The Blazers cut it within 9. He was rebounding. He had a cut that got himself to the free throw line. Both his shots came on one possession. He missed a layup, I think off of a good cut, or was it a drive? I forget, but it was a baseline play that he missed the lay-in and then followed it in. So I thought he had good minutes today. I was very frustrated when, after Trenton Watford was, I thought, brutal in the first half, Jabari got subbed out first in the second quarter. And I was frustrated about that because I thought Walker provided a good spark and should have stayed in the game. And Watford was struggling there in that first half. I thought Jabari should have maybe played a little bit more tonight.
Yeah, and at that point, like I felt like he was the only person crashing the boards, and yeah, I agree. Especially if we don't have Winslow, let Jabari maybe try that role a little bit. But yeah, good game for Walker at 8 minutes, but it's hard to judge someone on that.
Yeah, absolutely. But, how do you know what more he can do in more minutes if you don't give him more minutes? If he comes in and provides a spark and the rest of the team is kind of sleepy defensively, like, play him a little bit more. That makes sense to me. But Trendalicious is the tag for today. And, 5 fouls in 12 minutes, Eric, is what stands out to me on this graphic. Nothing else on this graphic stands out whatsoever. Just the 5 fouls in 12 minutes.
Yeah, the defense is frustrating because he's shown the ability to maybe be the best player on our team in the short roll once he gets confident. If he's not turning the ball over, he can make teams pay, get to the rim. But yeah, if he's going to be a liability on defense, it's tough to play him many minutes. But yeah,
he's just he's a good small ball center, but I don't know. Like, he's good in specific situations against specific teams, but I still think his best bet is to try and become quicker laterally to guard fours better and figure out his 3-point shot. And that is the best position for him long term, not the 5. He's extremely undersized for the 5 spot. I think his standing reach is 8'9".
Mm-hmm.
It's like a half inch taller than Nas, right? Like Trendon is actually quite undersized for the center position and doesn't have that crazy leaping ability to make up for it. So it's kind of a struggle playing as a small ball 5. And today he didn't provide any of the potential benefits of playing him at the 5 with the ball handling, being able to make a play off the dribble or being quicker defensively. And then I already ranted about how Chauncey decided to keep him in there in the first half instead of a guy like Jabari Walker who provided a spark, and then Chauncey decided to put him up against Luka Doncic, which I also thought was a mistake. I ranted about that earlier this stream. If you didn't catch it, definitely, feel free to rewind or watch back the start after we're done here. But not a good game from Trendalicious.
Not a good game to put Trendalicious for you.
No, not at all. But Nasir Little, 4 points, a rebound, 2 for 3 from the field in 15 minutes. Didn't turn over the ball. Made a couple defensive mistakes. I feel like Chauncey's harder on him defensively than anybody else on this team. I don't even... I saw him getting on him for something defensively. I didn't see what Nasir did wrong. I miss being able to watch games on YouTube TV, by the way, when I could rewind and watch certain possessions over a quarter timeout or just a regular timeout. But what did you think about him today? Maybe you watched him a little harder defensively.
Yeah, I actually thought he had a couple of really nice off-ball helps in this game. But yeah, on ball, he's still... It's weird, but he's been struggling on ball this year.
He did have a play where he, off the ball, he pressed up onto Christian Wood, but he didn't deny. He was close enough to deny if he got a hand up, but he just kind of stood there with his hands down. Christian Wood caught a pass, and then Nas, didn't back out at all to stay in front of him. He just, still stood extremely close, and Christian Wood just drove right by him, Nas wasn't there. And it was what are you doing?
Yeah. But yeah, I think... I don't know why, especially without Winslow, once again, if you're not going to play Walker much, why Nas isn't getting more minutes, especially on a night when Hart really struggles. It doesn't make much sense.
His usage of Nas is starting to extremely frustrate me, Eric. That might be the most consistently frustrating thing, because there's things in this game specifically that frustrate me, but it's just things within the specific game. I don't understand why Nas isn't playing more.
It's outside of a couple of games where we pretty much had to play him because we were missing half the team. It's he's got a 15-minute limit or something, If it wasn't for those couple games where he played 23, 24 minutes, I would think like they have some sort of minute limitation on him where he can only play 15 minutes a game. And yeah, so yeah, the thing I don't get is like he's hitting the shots consistently. He's making the right decisions on offense. Yeah,
Out.
the one cut to Jabari that Jabari had where he got free throws. That was a pass from Nas. Like he's been passing pretty well this year. So like offensively, it's hard because like that's been the biggest thing with him in the past is like, well, he's not hitting his threes and he's like it's hard to play him when he's not spacing the floor. But so far, he's hit his threes. He's shown the ability to put the ball on the floor a little bit, attack the closeouts. That was something that you were looking at him to do this year. He's been passing well out of those when there's a cutter, and then yeah, he makes mistakes on defense, but it's not mistakes that every other player on this team isn't making the similar mistakes at some point too. So yeah, I do feel like for some reason he's kind of in a doghouse situation, and I don't really understand why.
Alvi asks, is Nas where you expected he'd be, or is he progressing even better than you expected?
Oh no, I expected Nas to be like, well, I mean, I thought he was going to earn the starting small forward
Yeah.
position and be like basically what Hart is being, and then Hart would be, our facilitator off the bench and more of a bench role like Winslow's been playing. So yeah, I don't, I wouldn't say I'm like impressed with how he's progressed or anything. I feel like he's taken a step back in terms of how the team has faith in him. But once again, it's weird because he's produced in the limited minutes he's played, so it's not like stuff on the court. I mean, yeah, he's making defensive mistakes, but it's just kind of weird that he's being singled out when a lot of other players are. He hasn't been perfect. Like he's far from perfect, but I feel like he's earned more minutes than he's getting at least.
Yep. Dewbanks already talked at length about him. Had 2 points, 8 rebounds, couple steals, in 33 minutes, 5 fouls. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to add. I don't have anything to add. I already talked about him a ton.
I mean, Eubanks is playing as good as he's capable of playing. Like it's not. I mean,
Yeah.
he is what he is. He's fine. Like he does things that are okay on the court. It's just I don't know. He's in certain against certain teams and against certain lineups. Like you already beat home earlier. You can't have him on the court, and I don't understand with how successful the small ball has been this year why we wouldn't go to that more often.
Absolutely. Josh Hart already talked about his struggles. His feel for scoring the ball is off. He's facilitated, but missed a couple of layups he should have finished. Didn't know whether to shoot the three or not a couple of times. I want the Josh Hart we saw in game one against the Sacramento Kings where he had 21 points or whatever he did in that game. That Josh Hart is the Josh Hart I expect to see. This is Josh Hart we saw last year. He is not close to playing up to his capabilities, which is, another thing that if he can figure things out, then it makes this team even that much more dangerous. He's just he had 17 points last game. I was like, okay, and he had the buzzer beater earlier road trip. Like, okay, we're starting to see Josh Hart play more like we expect Josh Hart to play. And then this game was maybe his worst offensive game of the season.
Yeah. Well, and two, I mean, he's consistently been one of the better finishing guards in the NBA. I think he was like a top 10 finisher in terms of that last year. So
Yeah,
it's
not this year.
frustrating when he's not finishing this year. I don't know if he's just taking bad angles or the defense is already set up to take away Damon Ant, so those same driving lanes there's more traffic there. But yeah, I feel like too he's not like last year and the first few games of this year. There was like a moment in every game where he grabbed a rebound and took it the length of the court and beat the defense down the court. And he hasn't been doing that as much lately either. I feel like we need to try and push the tempo a little bit.
I mean, last year, on the season, he averaged 16 points per 36. In Portland, he averaged 22 points per 36. This year, he's averaging 9 points per 36.
Yeah.
And he's shooting 49% from 2. Last year on the season, he shot 60. He's shooting 33% from 3, which is below his career average. He was shooting at about 40%, but yeah, something's not right. Like, I think he's overthinking things, honestly, is what it looks like to me, because it looks like he's unsure of what to do. Like, he's hesitating between 2 different decisions on what to do with the ball, and then he's choosing neither, and then he just seems like his feel just seems off, man. That's the best way I can put it. It just seems like he's overthinking.
Yeah, Cody Franklin says his rebounding has been exceptional. Can we pause and give him credit for that? Absolutely. We've given him credit every single game for that. I don't know. Yeah, like, I mean, between him and Nurk, they basically single-handedly, between the two of them, double-handedly, I should say, kept our rebounding very good this season when it looked to be a very big weakness on this team. So, but when you have an energy guy like that who's good at rebounding, gives effort on defense, I think you can wear him down if you play 36 minutes. So he's not as effective if he's playing big minutes like he has been. He's been one of the few guys who hasn't been on the injury report, so he's getting consistently this many minutes. And this is why when we were doing the rotations earlier, before the season even started, like how many minutes Josh Hart was going to play, I always gave him 26 to 28 minutes, because I feel like he's just more effective if he's able to use that energy instead of having to do it for 3/4 of the game. And that makes it makes even less sense when you consider how little minutes players like Nas and Sharp at times and Jabari and stuff are getting as well. So maybe just give him a little bit less minutes so he can be a little more effective in those minutes.
Yep, that is it for the player cards. Let's go around the NBA. There were a lot of scores today. I thought I fixed it where it says final. I still have to look at that and figure that out. Luckily, we have a couple days off. We're pretty much the only stretch of a couple of days off in the month of November. But yeah. Nets beat the Clippers 110-95. The Jazz lost today 121-112. So we had a chance to be first in the West, but unfortunately couldn't get it done. With the Jazz losing, the Blazers lose as well. The Wizards are 7-6. Good for them. Celtics 117-108 over the Pistons. Pacers have been surprisingly solid to start the season. 118-104 victory over Toronto. Sixers beat the Hawks 121-109. They're still without James Harden, so an impressive win from them over the Atlanta Hawks. You got the Heat beating the Hornets 132-117. Mavericks took care of the Blazers 117-112. And the Pelicans beat the Rockets 119-106. Was there any individual performances that stood out from you today? I didn't really pay attention to the NBA.
Well, no, but thanks Philadelphia and Miami for not doing that on Thursday when I picked both of you guys to win in picks against the spread, and then you guys freaking now you win. You both won.
You're like one of 2 people above 500 right now.
I'm just messing.
How many games? What was your record?
I was the only one I got right on Thursday was the Blazers.
Good, because I doubled down with you and Jackson. And that was the only game I got wrong. I didn't purposely double down with you and Jackson
Dallas
either.
Too. Screw Dallas as well.
Yeah, that was Dallas too, and but they didn't have Christian Wood. Christian Wood makes a difference for this team off the bench. He's better off the bench too. That role makes a ton of sense for him. I've told Chris he doesn't need to do the scores graphic anymore, but we do have the scores up here. You got Western Conference standings. Portland is tied for second with Memphis, and Memphis has a tiebreaker because they beat Portland. Utah half a game ahead. So, Blazers are right there after a very difficult schedule so far this season. Phoenix and Denver only a half game back. Phoenix lost last night by almost 20 to Orlando, though. Dallas, 2 games back of first, game and a half back of Portland. New Orleans, Clippers, both above 500. San Antonio in 9th. That's our next opponent. Sacramento, Golden State got a clutch win over Cleveland. Could have been 4-8 very easily. That was a close game. Did you see Klay Thompson absolutely just absolutely run into a defender on a screen?
Yeah,
just absolutely truck a guy like he was a lead blocker. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Minnesota's looking bad, and then Lakers and Houston are the two bottom feeders right now. Like, clearly the bottom feeders in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
The Lakers suck.
I mean, OKC's... Go ahead.
I was not impressed with Minnesota. I watched most of that game last night. So.
Yeah. They're an interesting case. Like, I don't know how they got worse other than Cat, D'Lo, Anthony Edwards. Those are guys haven't been playing up to their potential. Their offense has fallen off. They don't have Pat Bev to kind of set the tone and be that dog for them. That's what you were saying yesterday. I agree with that take as well. He was kind of their emotional leader, and they lost that. And Rudy Gobert is who they replaced him with. He's not going to be your emotional leader. So, Minnesota isn't looking too good. But OKC's actually been competitive. You got SGA, you got
SGA
Giddey.
is amazing, yeah.
Yeah, like... Oklahoma City might not... I mean, they're not a good team, but they might not be a terrible team this year. But it'll be interesting to see at some point when they start tanking. I expect them to at some point. Just seeing them play some competitive games, I'm just wondering, man, what if they had Chet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the West is certainly looking like a team like that could have snuck possibly into the play-in at least. And then you never know from there. But, yeah, unfortunately not having Chet. I think it's going to eventually doom them.
Yep. I mean, it's nice seeing Portland 9-4 up there in third. It's just like, man, I want to see 10-3. Like this game and the Memphis game we lost, like 11-2. I'm greedy, man. I've suffered for long enough. Now I'm greedy.
So, still really good shape so far. A lot better shape than I think most people could have imagined with how difficult their early schedule was.
And after the preseason.
Preseason, yeah.
Let's look at
I certainly was gun shy about them after the preseason.
yeah, a lot of people were. Eastern Conference standings. Cleveland's lost a couple of games, and they've lost their hold on the number 2 seed, which is now Boston. Milwaukee's also lost a couple of games. Boston has been extremely good offensively. Best team in the league offensively by a decent margin. Atlanta there in 4 with... I don't know why Cleveland's logo's faded. Atlanta got the yellow background. Chris is hopefully sober. Washington sitting there at 5. They started off last season 8-3.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, like, when is Washington going to fall off? Like, 11 games in, they were the number 1 seed in the East, and then they fell off. It'll be interesting to see if, if they actually are like a 500 team, maybe a play-in team. As I said, they're kind of battling with Indiana and New York to be the final team in, because I expect Brooklyn and Miami and Philadelphia to at least make the play-in, and then just one of Washington, Indiana, New York to make the play-in as well. It'll be interesting to see who that is, because Indiana won today. They're 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
And New York 6-6. And then you got 4 teams 6-7, and it's 4 presumed playoff teams: Philadelphia, Chicago, Brooklyn, Miami. So East is interesting.
Very interesting.
Yep. Orlando's won a couple of games. I mean, they're 4-9 now. They started off 0-6. They've won 4 out of their past 7.
They're only 2 games out of a play-in.
Yeah. So that was my sleeper to start the season. I still feel like Orlando might make a little bit more noise. And then Charlotte's supposed to get LaMelo Ball back. Or did they get LaMelo Ball back today?
Yeah, he was supposed to play today.
Let me see what he did. I didn't read off stat lines. I was kind of just brushing through this. But LaMelo started with 6 for 17, 1 for 9 from 3, 15.6 assists, 6 rebounds. Charlotte has just been banged up to start the season and not good.
Yeah, and he came off an ankle injury, I think it was, so can't fully conditioned. So it'll probably take him a while to get back to playing shape.
Yep. And then the Pistons, some people thought might be able to make some noise. I mean, you got Cade, you got Ivy, you got Duran now, you got Bogdanovich, you got Sadiq Bey. They're sitting there at 3-11. I thought they should have been better, but they're just not a good enough defensive team.
And Cade didn't play today either. That doesn't help.
Yep. So Ivy had 26 today, 8 for 15 from the field. Like, at least he's looking good. But, I mean, it'll be interesting to see that. If they get like Wembanyama, man, Cade, Ivy, Wembanyama, Sadiq Bey, like that'll be an interesting team. But Detroit has not played well this year.
Yeah.
You got next 5 games. Home games. We get to play home games before we play 2 absolutely brutal road games. But San Antonio Spurs, we get 2 days off, and then San Antonio Spurs on Tuesday. So we'll have a preview stream for that Monday on our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live. We'll preview that. At that point, we should know if Gary Payton II is playing or not. They targeted that date as his return date, but there's still no official 100% confirmation on that. But getting Gary Payton II back and hopefully Nurkic back as well would be nice, and a couple of days of rest coming back home. Gotta take care of business on this home trip. Gotta win 2 out of 3 games. If they go 1-2 and end up 10-6, man, I'm not gonna be too happy. Need to be 11-5, but I mean the goal should be to sweep this homestand. 4-2 on the road, come back home, got 3 winnable games. The Nets will be without Kyrie. You just gotta shut down KD. The San Antonio Spurs, they started off the season hot, but now they're struggling. They're not that good of a team. And then Utah, who started the season hot, they're still number 1 seed in the West, but I'm not fully buying them, and they lost tonight to the Wizards. Gotta take care of business on this homestand.
Absolutely. Yeah, Nets don't want to let them get going. KD is going to be a tough matchup, but Grant's someone that, finally we could put our best player on a forward or our defender on our forward instead of a guard. At least that's how I think it should be, hopefully. But I mean, on paper, you think you got to beat the Spurs considering they weren't really expected to be much this year. But the other 4 games are all going to be very tough, but Portland should hopefully win at home. They gotta figure out a way to thrive at home. They've been better on the road than at home this year so far. I guess it's pretty close now that they lost tonight, but that next road trip is absolutely crushing, man. That's going to be very tough.
Milwaukee, Cleveland, New York, and Brooklyn again.
So take care of business at home, because then you can maybe afford to not have a great road trip, like we thought this one wasn't going to be. But yeah, got to find a way to get these at least 2 out of 3, like you said.
Yep. I mean, the last home game was that Memphis game on national television that they came back and then lost. And Dame's last home game was the game he got hurt against the Heat back in October. So it just would have been nice to go 5-1 to come back to Moda Center with a 4-game win streak on the road. Man. And, Moda Center should still be rocking, though. Hopefully this fan base is loving what they're seeing and going to make that place loud. But, sure. three home games, and then Bucks, Cavs, Knicks, Nets, Eastern Conference road trip after that. And then they come home for a single game to play the Clippers. And they have 2 more road games, the Lakers and the Jazz. At that point, they will have played what? They've played 8 road games so far, correct?
Yeah, I think so, 6-2.
Yeah, so after December 3rd, 14 of their 23 games will have been on the road, and then they have a 5-game homestand, Pacers, Nuggets, T-Wolves twice in a row, and then the Spurs, and then they play the Mavericks on the road again as we get into mid-December, 5-game road trip once again, Mavericks, Rockets, Thunder twice in a row, and Nuggets, luckily a couple winnable games in there. I mean, every game's winnable for the Blazers, but a couple should be easy wins, hopefully. But yeah, that's just kind of the schedule ahead. I have a schedule feed in our Discord, which we've been upgrading and doing a bunch of cool stuff for. We had a game thread tonight, which was a lot of fun to participate in. It was very lively. And on the video I dropped earlier today about the Blazers being contenders if they fix one thing, that was the title of the video. I also advertised the Discord and kind of explained a little bit. So go watch that video. And, if you're interested in the Discord and how we've set it up, go watch the ad in that video. I'll have a video that I'll post somewhere in the Discord kind of explaining how we have things set up in there. But just trying to bring the community together around the Discord and do more with that. So there is a link in the description box below. Hopefully it works. Actually, I'll just post a new link. I'll just post a new link because half the time the links don't work. So I always just update it. But here is the link.
Discord's been popping.
It has been popping. We've gained about almost 100 people in the past couple of days since we started truly advertising it. So definitely go check it out. Definitely go join. You can interact with us on there. We're pretty active. And yeah, anyway, any final words for this post-game show?
No, just a bummer loss, but overall big picture, I think we're still okay. Just gotta win these games at home and not let them get too down. Got 2 days off now to regroup. Hopefully, got everyone healthy, maybe.
Yeah.
Because no one's really seriously hurt, I don't think. So I think with 2 more days off, if you get Peyton back too, now we can really get into seeing our actual team and see how that does. And I think Peyton will provide a boost on the defensive end too if that's starting to falter a little bit like tonight.
Yep, absolutely. I will post a mailbag on Monday. There will be a prompt. I might post it in the Discord, actually, or I'll post it in the community tab of the channel. I'll tag everyone on Discord when I post the prompt, though, so that's another reason to go join the Discord so you can ask me a mailbag question, and I'll drop that on Monday. Otherwise, other than Blazers Uprise live stream on Monday, tomorrow I'm going to take off, which will be nice. Take off from YouTube. I dropped a Believe in Blazers podcast earlier today as well over on the second channel, so definitely go check that out if you want to. Me and Stephen Vaughn. And, we got a couple days off, which will be nice to just relax a little bit and look ahead to the Blazers finally playing some home games. I've missed home cooking, man. So looking forward to that. Anything else that I need to plug or cover?
No,
Thank you
to everyone for joining us tonight, even though we lost, and hope to see everyone on Monday.
Yep, this has been the Blazers Uprise post-game show presented by Bet Online. Remember, use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive 50% rewards. And with that being said, we are out of here. Hopefully you have a good rest of your night and a good Sunday. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.